In a galaxy where machines measure everything and logic rules all, one experiment shattered the universe's idea of limits. They thought humans were predictable, measurable creatures of muscle and mind. Until they met her, Emma Winters, an ordinary woman from Earth, chosen for a test no being was meant to survive. The aliens sought to define human endurance, but what they found redefined existence itself. Because when you push a human beyond the edge, you don't discover their limit. You awaken something the cosmos was never prepared for. Hey there, legend. If stories about humanity's raw, unstoppable spirit give you chills, then hit that like button and subscribe for more of the wildest HFY sci-fi tales on the net. And don't forget to share this one with a friend, because after today's story, you'll never look at human endurance the same way again. Ready to find out what happens when aliens test a human? Let's dive in the blue-hued stillness of Luminous 7. The air didn't move, only the soft hum of quantum processors whispered through the chamber like a digital lullaby. Every sound, every flicker of light, carried the weight of intellect older than Earth's continents. Dr. Thex, chief xenobiologist of the Galactic Research Council, stood before his peers, towering chrome beings, translucent intellects suspended in containment gel, and biomechanical minds that pulsed with artificial thought. On the table before them glowed a single proposal: study the limits of a human. The council chambers fell silent. 1,000 alien eyes blinked in disbelief. A human? Those fragile primates from the blue world that still use combustion engines? Why waste resources studying them? Thex's voice was calm but resolute. Because, he said, we have measured everything in this galaxy, except the one species that refuses to be measured. The words hung in the air, almost blasphemous. The council approved the experiment, reluctantly, skeptically, but curiosity was a virus none of them could resist. They built the testing chamber at the heart of Luminous 7, a sphere of adaptive gravity fields, temperature control, and molecular analyzers that could dissect a heartbeat from across the room. Thex chose his subject carefully: Emma Winters, a civilian from Earth. Not a soldier, not a scientist, just ordinary. Also, they thought. When Emma arrived, escorted through the shimmering corridors of the station, she looked impossibly small against the vast metal halls. Her eyes scanned everything with quiet curiosity, not fear, not arrogance, just calm awareness. Dr. Naren, head of security, observed her vitals on the monitor and relaxed his defense glands. She poses no threat, he muttered. Thex gave a thin smile. Let's hope you're right. They began with the simplest calibration, measuring muscle resistance under controlled strain. The instrument predicted failure within moments. Instead, Emma moved through the resistance with ease, her muscles flowing like liquid steel. Is this all? She asked, breath steady. Naren blinked. That was 80% of your recorded species maximum. Then bump it to 100, she said with a grin. Otherwise, what's the point? Thex noted her tone, not pride, not defiance, but curiosity, like a child wondering what happens as she touches a star. It was in that moment the alien scientists began to realize something terrifying. They weren't studying a specimen. They were staring at the beginning of a myth. As the chamber doors closed and the systems calibrated for higher resistance, Thex made a final entry in his observation log. We seek to measure force of nature, but perhaps nature does not yield to measurement. He watched a silhouette beyond the glass, framed in blue light, preparing for the unknown. And for the first time in his long, logical life, Dr. Thex felt something alien to his kind: anticipation. The testing chamber thrummed like a living heart. Metallic walls pulsed with faint light as layers of invisible energy fields locked into place. Emma stood in the center, barefoot on the reinforced floor, breathing slowly, eyes steady. From the control deck above, Dr. Thex gave the order. Begin the sequence at 80% resistance. The first wave hit, kinetic force equivalent to hundreds of kilograms pressing against her arms and chest. Any known human should have strained. Instead, she smiled. Feels like a warm-up, she said, her voice calm through the intercom. Thex's assistants exchanged puzzled looks. One adjusted the gravity feed, another checked the pressure calibration. Everything was functioning correctly. The human should have been struggling. She wasn't. Increase resistance, Thex ordered. Increment by 20. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the systems redirected more power. The resistance tripled. Emma's breathing deepened, but her composure didn't break. She moved through the exercise with deliberate grace, controlled, almost meditative. "Still steady," Naren muttered. No strain detected. Then Emma laughed, a quiet, amused sound. "You're not holding back, are you?" For the first time, something like discomfort rippled through the observation deck. These beings had seen black holes feed on suns without emotion. Yet here they were, unnerved by a small creature who seemed to defy their numbers. "Push it again," Thex said, his voice lower now. "All systems to maximum tolerance." The resistance field roared to life. The floor vibrated. Containment rings glowed white-hot, and sensors screamed under stress. Emma's body responded instantly. Her muscles tensed, fibers stretching, tearing, and healing faster than any known biology. Her heartbeat spiked, then stabilized at impossible levels. "She's adapting," whispered one of the researchers. "Not adapting," Thex corrected quietly. "Evolving." Data streamed across the consoles like a flood of impossibilities. Her cells were reorganizing in real time, forming denser, stronger structures. It wasn't just strength. It was transformation. The alien scientists leaned closer, their glowing eyes reflecting lines of code that no longer made sense. "This isn't just muscle performance," Naren said, voice cracking. "Her DNA is rewriting itself." Emma pushed harder, every movement a ripple of power. The containment field trembled, then stabilized again as she exhaled. When she finally stopped, the sensors recorded output levels far beyond human limits. She rolled her shoulders casually. "Now that we're fun." Thex stared at her through the reinforced glass. For the first time in his career, data failed to comfort him. Numbers couldn't explain what he was seeing. He opened his log and wrote one sentence. "We believed we were testing strength, but it feels more like strength is testing us." The chamber powered down slowly, but the silence that followed wasn't relief. It was disbelief. Somewhere deep in his circuits, Thex wondered a quiet, dangerous thought. What happens when you push a human too far, and they don't break? By the third cycle of testing, the alien research team had stopped whispering. Even the hum of machinery seemed to hesitate, as if the entire station was holding its breath. Dr. Thex stood at the observation deck, staring down at the human who had already broken every model, every equation, every known law of adaptation. Emma Winters stretched lightly, as though she were warming up for a morning jog instead of facing conditions that could crush a battleship. "Commence gravitational trial," Thex commanded. The floor beneath her shimmered as localized gravity surged. 1.5 times Earth's pull. 2.5. At this level, most species' organs would collapse. Emma's heartbeat barely shifted. Sweat rolled down her temple, but her smile never faded. "At 3.5 GS, Naren shouted. "Enough? That's lethal." But through the comm system came her calm reply. "You sure? Feels heavy, but manageable." She adjusted her stance, inhaled, and moved, executing combat drills that should have been impossible. Every motion was a declaration against physics. When she jumped, she rose 2 meters into the air, against gravity strong enough to liquefy lungs. The reinforced floor cracked where she landed. Thex's quills trembled. What is she doing to herself? His analysts were lost in panic. Data streams blurred, sensors overloaded. Her bone density is increasing. Her cellular matrix is adapting to gravity stress in real time. Her endocrine system just... Wait! It's producing unknown compounds. They couldn't keep up. Biology itself seemed to be rewriting its rulebook right before their eyes. Emma looked up toward the glass, her voice light and teasing. "You wanted to find my limit, right? Maybe you should try harder." Thex whispered to himself, almost reverent. "There is no limit." They increased the temperature, raised the pressure, flooded the chamber with radiation meant to simulate the core of a dying sun. The instruments screamed under the load, but Emma didn't scream. She only clenched her fists, her muscles glowing faintly as energy bled off her skin like mist. Her pulse stabilized. Her vitals normalized. The readings turned from chaos to symmetry. "She's synchronizing with the environment," Naren murmured. "She's not resisting it. She's becoming part of it." Thex stepped closer to the glass, eyes wide. "No, she's surpassing it." Every alien in that chamber felt the same chilling realization crawl through them. They hadn't found a breaking point. They had found something the universe itself couldn't measure, a consciousness that refused to obey entropy. Emma exhaled softly. The air vibrated around her like a sigh from a sleeping god. And in that moment, even the machine seemed to understand what the aliens could not. When humanity is cornered, it doesn't break. It transcends. Thex hadn't slept in 2 rotations. Every calculation he'd trusted since his creation now lay in ruins. Emma Winters wasn't just a human subject. She was the end of certainty itself. The Council demanded one final test, the full composite trial. Gravity, radiation, temperature, pressure, all amplified by their experimental quantum core. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was science trying to stare into the eyes of God. Activate the core. Thex ordered quietly. The lab lights dimmed. A low vibration rolled through the station, deep enough to shake molecules apart. The air in the chamber shimmered crimson as gravitational fields twisted into knots. Emma stood in the center, her posture relaxed, eyes steady. "All right," she said softly. "Let's see what you've got." Then the world exploded. Temperatures surged beyond survivability. Pressure spiked until steel wailed like a living creature. Radiation levels climbed high enough to erase DNA in seconds. Yet through the blinding storm, her vitals remained stable. Naren stared at the monitors, his threat organs flaring in confusion. "This is impossible. The core output is exceeding design limits. Shut it down." "I can't," Thex snapped. "The controls are unresponsive. She's interfering with the system somehow." The alarm screamed. Energy readings fractured into chaotic spikes. Then, a sharp crack echoed across the entire facility. A power conduit ruptured. The quantum core began to cascade toward meltdown. Panels burst in showers of light. Containment walls trembled. If the core went critical, it wouldn't just destroy the station. It would rip a hole in subspace itself. "Evacuate!" Naren roared. But the human didn't move. Through the chaos, Emma's voice cut through, calm as ever. "Hey, Doc," she said, glancing toward the observation deck. "I got this." Before Thex could respond, she sprinted straight into the storm, toward the collapsing heart of the experiment. Gravitational waves rippled around her, tearing metal apart. Radiation levels went off the scale. Every rational being watching knew she should have disintegrated. Instead, she kept going. "Her body is resonating," whispered one of the analysts. "She's syncing with a quantum field." Emma reached the core housing, a sphere of flickering light, distorting space itself. She placed her bare hands on the warping metal, face calm, eyes locked on the impossible. "This might get rough," she said with a grin. Then she changed. Her pulse aligned with the core's vibration, each heartbeat countering its collapse. The core's scream softened, its destructive waves folding into stillness. And in that silence, she held the impossible together with nothing but willpower. When the light finally faded, Emma stood surrounded by wreckage, smoke curling from her torn suit. She brushed dust from her shoulder and exhaled. "Well," she muttered, "that was more interesting than my usual workout." Thex's voice trembled as he whispered into his recorder. A biological being stabilized a quantum meltdown by sheer intent. "We are no longer observers of humanity. We are witnesses to its myth." The lab was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the stunned, fragile quiet that follows an encounter with the divine. Smoke drifted through the shattered chamber. Console sparked. The quantum core, once a star in a bottle, now pulsed faintly, tamed. And at the center of it all stood Emma Winters, brushing dust off her arms like she'd just finished rearranging furniture. Dr. Thex descended slowly from the observation deck, his metallic limbs trembling. Around him, the galaxy's greatest scientific minds stood speechless, beings who could manipulate gravity, read minds, and rewrite genetic code, and not one of them could form a coherent thought. Thex's voice came out as a whisper. "You stabilized a quantum core. Your cells, your mind, even your atoms shouldn't have survived that." Emma gave a small shrug. "Guess I've had worse mornings." Thex blinked, confused. "What are you?" She tilted her head, thinking for a moment, then smiled. "Just human." Those 2 words hit harder than any explosion. In the debriefing chamber, the analysis began, hollow, desperate. They scoured her DNA for anomalies, compared her neural activity to known energy patterns, and even ran spiritual diagnostics across multiple dimensions. The results? Nothing unusual, except for one thing, a chemical surge in her bloodstream during the most extreme moments. The aliens had identified it as an unknown performance catalyst. When they told her, Emma laughed. "Oh, that? We call it adrenaline." The room froze. "Wait," Thex said slowly. "That was natural." "Sure," she replied, settling into a chair designed for someone 3 times her size. "I run a little bookstore back home. Not really the athletic type." One of the assistants dropped his data crystal. Another's neural interface flickered out from sheer disbelief. Everything they had witnessed, the strength, the regeneration, the control over reality itself, had come not from mutation or divine origin, but from an ordinary human running on instinct. Emma stood, stretching casually. "You guys look like you've seen a ghost." Thex's voice cracked as he recorded his final log. "Research terminated. All known theories of biological limitation are void. Recommendation: never, under any circumstance, give a human a reason to truly push themselves." Emma turned toward the exit, flashing a friendly wave. "Well, Doc, this was fun, but I've got new mystery novels arriving at the shop. You know how it is." She walked out, leaving behind a chamber full of the universe's most advanced minds, rendered irrelevant by a woman who sold books. When the Galactic Council demanded an explanation, Thex told them the truth. "We met a species that does not wait for evolution. They command it." He paused, his mechanical voice barely above a whisper. "And I am no longer sure the universe will ever feel safe again. So, what did we learn today? The galaxy thought it could measure humanity, test our strength, define our limits, chart our endurance like numbers on a graph. But the truth? Humanity doesn't fit inside equations. We are the equation that breaks them. From a quiet bookstore on Earth to the edge of a collapsing quantum star, one woman reminded the universe what we've always known deep down. Humans don't stop when it hurts. We stop when we're done. If that doesn't give you chills, I don't know what will. Hey, if you felt that spark, hit the like button, share this story with someone who believes in human potential, and subscribe for more HFY legends that prove one thing above all. Humans don't follow the rules of the universe. We rewrite them.